I think my engagement ring was killing people. I never thought I'd be writing this, but I feel like I need to tell someone what's happened. Jake and I had been together for 3 years when we started talking about getting engaged. We both loved antiques. You know, items with history and stories embedded in them. Every weekend, we'd hunt together through antique shops and estate sales, searching for all sorts of forgotten treasures. That's how we found the ring. The perfect ring. At least that's how it felt then. It sat in a locked case at Madame Aloyse's shop downtown, a deep blue sapphire set in an intricate gold band with delicate filigree. Art Deco, unique, perfect. I knew it immediately. Jake, ever the romantic, insisted on buying it then and there. He shooed me from the store, promising to make it special. 2 weeks later, on a warm evening, he led me to our favorite park bench beneath the willow tree we always loved. He knelt, eyes bright with excitement, and presented a small velvet box. I knew what was inside before he even opened it. But when my eyes finally fell on the ring itself, my heart stuttered and I seemed to forget everything I knew. My mind went blank. "Where did you get this?" I asked, fingers hovering over the gold band. Jake grinned. "You know where?" And I did know, of course. My brain was just temporarily mush, I guess. It was the ring from Madame Aloyse's shop. But inside the band, something new gleamed under the lamplight, an engraving. LM and JC. I ran my thumb over the initials. Lucy M. And Jake C. Jake shrugged. It was already there. Fate, right? The night air seemed to press around us. Something cold curled in my stomach. "What are the odds?" I whispered. "I'm not a statistician," Jake laughed, "but I think it was meant to be." We drank champagne under the willow, and I fell asleep that night with the ring on my finger, feeling like the luckiest woman alive. Then the nightmares started. I dreamed of a bride in a blood-spattered church, sobbing behind her veil. When she turned to face me, her face was bruised and tear-streaked. I woke gasping for air, my chest feeling like it was about to explode. "Bad dream?" Jake mumbled, pulling me closer. "Just nerves," I lied, glancing at the sapphire gleaming in the darkness. The next morning, things got so much worse. My neighbor waved as I collected the mail. The sapphire caught the sunlight, flashing blue for just a second. 5 minutes later, her brakes failed as she backed out of her driveway. Her car plowed into an oncoming delivery truck. I watched paramedics pull her mangled body from the wreckage. I tried to convince myself it was a horrible coincidence. 1 in a billion or something. But then my boss dropped dead during a meeting later that afternoon, just moments after complimenting my ring. An aneurysm, they said. I saw how his eyes fixed on the sapphire right before blood trickled from his ears. Deep down, I knew I had been cursed by the ring I loved so much. I had become a walking omen of death. On my way home that night, still in shock, I witnessed a man glance at me, then climb up to the ledge of my apartment building and jump without hesitation. The thud his body made when it hit the pavement will haunt me forever. His dead eyes found mine in the crowd. I clutched my hand to my chest, and the sapphire felt warm against my skin. Too warm. When I looked down, I noticed a faint burn mark on my skin. Around midnight, I decided it was time to remove the ring. But my finger had swollen. The band wouldn't budge at all. No amount of soap, ice, or oil could loosen it. As the days continued, so did the deaths. A barista touched my hand while returning change. Minutes later, he choked to death on a scone as I waited for my cold brew. An elderly woman who admired my ring at the grocery store was crushed beneath collapsing shelves moments later. At dinner with friends, I kept my hands hidden under the table, but Melissa insisted on seeing the ring. The moment the sapphire caught the light, a waiter carrying cherries jubilantly tripped. The dessert's high-proof alcohol splashed across nearby tables, igniting instantly. The entire restaurant went up in flames. In the chaos, I watched Melissa's hair ignite, her screams swallowed by the roaring inferno. Only Jake and I walked out unscathed. After 8 deaths in a week, I was desperate. I started keeping my left hand hidden whenever I was out in public, stuffing it deep into my pants or coat pockets. I also began Googling the ring online. It was such a luxurious and unique ring, I was curious if it had a history. It didn't take long to find the original owners. Lydia M. and James C. LM and JC, just like our initials. The newspaper article from 1952 was brief but chilling. Local bride found slain on wedding night. The accompanying photo showed Lydia wearing my ring. and she looked just like the woman in my dreams. Something else disturbed me, too. Jake had changed. His once warm brown eyes now seemed glassy and unfamiliar. Sometimes I'd catch him staring at the ring with an expression I didn't recognize: possessive, hungry. When I mentioned the deaths, he'd shrug them off as coincidences. When I suggested we research the ring's history together, he changed the subject. I began to research alone, visiting libraries and local historical societies. I found more articles about Lydia and James. They'd been high school sweethearts. James had given Lydia the sapphire ring as a symbol of his undying love, a family heirloom passed down through generations. But on their wedding night, something had gone terribly wrong. The police found Lydia's body in their honeymoon suite, strangled. James was nowhere to be found. For weeks, the papers speculated about his whereabouts. Had he killed his bride and fled? Had they both been victims of a robbery gone wrong? 6 months later, James's body washed up on a riverbank 50 miles downstream from the bridge where his car had been found abandoned. His death was ruled a suicide. In my search, I discovered an old woman who claimed to be Lydia's cousin. She lived in a nursing home on the outskirts of town. When I visited her, she recognized the ring immediately. "You need to get rid of it," she whispered, her papery hand clutching mine. It was cursed by James's great-grandmother, a woman scorned. She wanted revenge on the family that had rejected her, so she placed a curse on the ring. "It brings death to anyone who sees it, except for the wearer and their beloved." She leaned closer. "But there's a price for that protection." "What price?" I asked. "I think your soul's," she said. "I can't be certain." I only know James wasn't himself after he gave Lydia that ring. It changed both of them over time. The night he killed her, his eyes were different. I had seen them myself, empty, like you were staring through a window. Like Jake's eyes now. The old woman told me how to remove the ring. It had to be done on a new moon. There was a mixture I needed to prepare, herbs and oils and other things I won't mention here. The process would be painful, but it was the only way. The next new moon, I prepared everything as I was told. Jake watched with those unfamiliar, glassy eyes as I submerged my hand in the mixture. The pain was excruciating, my skin blistered on contact, but it worked. The ring loosened. With one final, agonizing pull, I wrenched the ring free. My finger came with it, severed cleanly at the knuckle. Blood poured from the wound, but I felt only relief as the sapphire glowed with rage. Jake lunged for the ring, but I was faster. I dropped it into a cloth bag and tied it with red thread 7 times exactly as instructed. We drove to the old bridge at the edge of town. The bag seemed to get heavier with each mile, and I could swear I heard scratching coming from inside it. At the center of the bridge, we stood in darkness, staring at the black water below. No moon reflected on its surface. "Are you sure?" Jake asked, his voice finally his own again. I nodded, clutching my bandaged hand. "It has to end." He held the bag over the railing. For a moment, it seemed like he couldn't let go, like the bag was stuck to his hand. Then, with visible effort, Jake opened his fingers. The splash below was small. The ripples disappeared quickly. It's been 3 weeks. No accidents, no death. Jake is himself again, though he remembers everything. We both do. When Jake and I drive over that bridge, we both fall silent, staring at the water below. Sometimes I dream of the river bottom, of silt slowly covering the cloth bag, of water flowing endlessly over hidden things. In these dreams, I see fish swimming near the bag, then darting away suddenly. The ring is down there, waiting. Is it truly contained, or simply biding its time? When I wake from these dreams, my missing finger throbs with phantom pain, and I wonder if somewhere in the darkness of the river, a sapphire pulses in answer.